channel. My name is Sarah and it's been so long since I sat down and did a video. I filmed bits here and there but never put it into a vlog because life has just been a lot at the moment, and I haven't really been doing a huge amount of reading. I struggle in the summer anyway, when it's like hot. I mean, I live in Scotland, it never gets that hot, but it's always really humid and it just zaps my energy. Like, I'm just not a summer person. Much more like myself when it's cold and rainy and grey like it is today, because it's the 1st of October, so it's officially autumn. It was officially autumn a couple of weeks ago, but definitely like feels autumnal now with all the leaves changing and the weather being so cold. And yeah, it's just my favourite time of year, so I'm really happy about that. I'm hoping that the darker nights and coziness of the season will entice me back into reading. I have been reading, just not a huge amount, and sort of the books I've been reading, I've enjoyed them, but I haven't really wanted to talk about them, I suppose. So I'm in a bit of a rut. I'm also 23 weeks pregnant, which is really taking it out of me. This is my second child and it's a lot harder when you're in your mid-30s. I had my first child in my 20s and now it's just like, it's something else. I'm having another boy and I'm really excited. I'm nervous because I have a lot of trauma from the last birth that I experienced. I'm really excited to welcome the baby into our lives, and it's just, I like being pregnant, I really do. Like, I hate all the side effects from it, and I've been really ill, but like actual like experiencing having a baby like growing inside me is just, I really do enjoy that experience. So it's been a nice time but a difficult time as well, and I only have like 2 months left of work before I go on maternity leave, so that's something I'm also looking forward to as well. So yeah, now everything's cold and cozy, I'm really gonna lock in and just enjoy my reading. I mean, I only have about, like, how long is it till my baby's born? Like 4 months. I have about 4 months to enjoy reading as much as I can before it becomes even more difficult than it is now. I have a full-time job, I already have a son, and my son has multiple complex disabilities, so I'm a carer to him as well. So my life's quite full on, and it's gonna get more full on. But yeah, this is the time to enjoy some cozy reading time. Probably not cozy books, not a cozy books kind of person, but yeah. So I have 2 books on the go at the moment. The first is Our Infinite Fates by Laura Stephen, which I've been reading since about May, listening to it on audiobook. I love Laura Stephen. Every Exquisite Thing and The Society for Soulless Girls were just such amazing sapphic YA books. I'm not enjoying Our Infinite Fates as much. It's kind of like an Addie LaRue-esque, and these 2 people, Arden and Evelyn, keep meeting in various lives, and they remember each other, and once it gets to their 18th birthdays, Arden has to murder Evelyn, and she's always coming to terms with that, and like, he never tells her why he's doing that, and it's interesting. I like hearing about all the different time periods they've lived through. I like the fact that they're not always the same gender. When they're reincarnated, sometimes they'll both be boys, sometimes both girls, sometimes Arden is a girl and Evelyn is a boy. So it's interesting in that sense, and I think it's well written. It feels a lot more YA than the other 2, I think, is the main problem I have, and it's YA, so that's fine. But yeah, it's just, I'm gonna finish it. It's just sitting around about 3 stars, whereas I think Every Exquisite Thing I gave 5 stars. I really loved that one, and The Society for Soulless Girls I gave 4 stars. But I'll still read anything Laura Stephen brings out because I really love her as a writer. And the second book I have on the go is The Picture of Dorian Gray, which is a reread for me for about the 6th, 7th time. I first read this when I was 16 in my A-levels, and it's one of my favourite books of all time. I love it so much. I don't have my copy to hand right now, it's downstairs, but I'm taking it really slowly this time, and annotating and trying to do more secondary reading around it. This, in case you didn't know, is a piece of Victorian literature written by Oscar Wilde, and it follows a young man called Dorian who it sort of charts his descent into corruption. He has a portrait painted of him. He's a beautiful young man, and everyone always comments on how beautiful he is, and he is terrified that one day he will lose this beauty, so he makes a Faustian pact to retain that beauty forever. But instead of him aging, his portrait ages and turns like into a really grotesque caricature of himself, based on all the corrupt, sinful things that he does. I just love it so much. The writing is so rich and vibrant and decadent. I think it really epitomizes like that era of hedonism. I love the way Oscar Wilde's wit comes through. I was reading the preface to this where Oscar Wilde is essentially saying like you need to like not conflate art and artist, and not read into things that aren't there, which is basically to cover his back because he was a gay man and that was very much illegal and punishable by death at the time. And it's just so witty the way he's like just gets you so caught up and like tied up in knots. I really like, so he's basically saying like, oh, you read that these characters were homosexual, did you? How interesting. That says a lot about you. And he's just like really playful with it. There's so many like homosexual undertones. It was banned at one point. I think this might be the reason Oscar Wilde was imprisoned. This book might have been that reason. I can't quite remember. But yeah, I love the characters so much. Sweet Basil and Lord Henry, who's just a terrible person, but you just can't help but laugh at him, and laugh with him. And then Dorian, who's so melodramatic and easily swayed, and you can just see from the start how he's going to be led astray by like these various negative influences in his life. I definitely recommend this if you don't like reading classics so much. Like, I'm not a big fan of like that era of classics. Like, Victorian literature is not something that's particularly interesting to me. I don't mind it. I'm happy to read it, but like this is like one of my favorite books of all time. I think it's really accessible. You can get so much out of it. It's really like, if you're looking to annotate a book and just like go on a deep dive into something, I'd really recommend this one because there's just so much that you can pick out of it. Like I said, from the preface, like there's just, you could write an entire essay on the preface alone, so I really recommend that. But because that's going to take me a while to read, not because it's difficult, but because I'm sort of diving more in depth into it and just enjoying annotating and like pretending I'm back at uni with no other concerns in my life other than when my essay's due. It's just taking me a bit longer, and I don't always have the brain power to sit and annotate stuff after a day in the office and everything else going on in my life. So I thought it might be fun to read alongside Dorian Gray. Is a book that maybe will be a bit, not necessarily lighter, but something I'm not having to like engage my brain quite as intensely with, because I'm not looking to like annotate or anything like that. And I put all the books from my physical and Kindle TBR that had sort of autumn vibes to me, whether that's like their horror, their gothic, maybe historical. I think I have a couple of cozier books in there, not many, some fantasies, and I just put them all in this little bowl, and I thought I'd just pick at random which one I'm going to read next, and I thought that might be a fun thing to read alongside Dorian Gray in this vlog. So let's pick out a book. that's The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. So that's what I'm going to be reading next. I have heard very mixed things about it. Never read Leigh Bardugo before. I have a feeling I won't like it. It's a historical horror fantasy. I'm not sure about horror, definitely fantasy, set during the time of the Spanish Inquisition. So it sounds like a really interesting premise. That's all I really know about it. And I bought it in hardback when it came out and haven't looked at it since. But I didn't read any reviews. I don't normally buy like new releases. But I just did that time because the cover was so pretty. And then I started seeing all the like not great reviews, so I was just like but yeah, I'm excited to give it a go, and I will like know how I get on with it. So I'm about 100 pages into The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. Look away if you hate to see books that aren't in pristine condition, and I covered in all kinds. I don't know what this is. It's clearly my son's had it. I'm not precious about my books. I like this so far. I'm quite enjoying it. I can see maybe why people don't like it all that much. It's quite slow, I'll say that, and the world building isn't really all that for me so far. It's a lot of telling, not showing, but I'm kind of happy to just read that and just get on board with it. I quite like reading about this time period. I know nothing about the Golden Age, like the Spanish Golden Age or the Inquisition really, but I do like that kind of like 1500 setting in my novels anyway, so I'm enjoying learning a little bit about that time period. But my gripe is that it's not particularly like well built as a society. Like you can't really, I don't really feel like I'm in the streets of Madrid at that time, and I don't necessarily feel like the political intrigue is very well done. You're kind of told like this person's fallen out of favour with the king, and this king is like angry at the Queen of England, and that's all you really get. And I would like to maybe have seen a bit more of that. But so far I'm quite enjoying it. We're following a young girl who works as a scullion. She's called Lucia, and she works for a family who previously would have had a lot of money but have fallen upon like hard times, and they're really struggling to keep up appearances, and they're finding that they're not getting invited to lots of like fancy like social events because people are just like, well, they're not going to be able to afford to do the same for us, so we're not going to invite them. And the wife in particular is struggling with this. She's quite a nasty piece of work, to be honest. We're told from the start she's in very much like a loveless marriage. It was just like a marriage of convenience for her and her husband. They don't really care about each other on any level, and she's just quite nasty to her cook and the scullion, who are like the only members of staff she currently employs in her house because she can't afford to employ anymore. And one day she goes down into the kitchen and notices that a loaf of bread is burning in the oven, and then goes up to the cook to be like really angry about it and just make a scene and kick off, just to have someone to like blame for all of her troubles and just to have a rant really. But Lucia, the scullion, has kind of magical powers, and she knows that the cook is going to get in trouble, so she just repairs this loaf of bread and makes it back to normal, which confuses the mistress of the household. But she starts to become a bit suspicious of Lucia, and eventually realises that she has these magical powers that she's been kind of trying to hide. She's trying to hide the fact that she has magical powers, and also that she is Jewish, because she doesn't want to be sort of taken in for questioning or accused of being a witch. So the mistress finds out. The girl, like, they invite loads of people over for these fancy dinners to sort of show her capabilities, and people like really want to go and eat with them, and they're just like sort of starting to gain a bit of status within society. And it turns out that one of these dinners, someone has sent a spy who's realised that she has these magical powers, and then this man, whose name I can't remember to be honest, no, it doesn't say in the blurb, but she's recruited by this guy who's trying to find favour with the king again. He's kind of a disgraced advisor, and he wants to get back in the king's good books, and he's like, I know a way you can get back at the Queen of England, and it's through this girl who has these magical powers. And so he recruits her to take part in a tournament, and all we really know is this guy's kind of dodgy, and there's a lot of like nasty stuff kind of going on in the background, and Lucy is just at the start finding herself being roped into this. But she's, at the moment, she's like, she has a bit of fear, but she's excited because she's getting out of like sleeping in the kitchen, and sort of has her own room in this house, and she's anticipating that she will be able to move out of her mistress's house and get better employment that pays more with people that treat her better. So that's where I'm at so far, and yeah, it's fine, it's good. Nothing to write home about so far, but I am gonna continue reading it. I also finished Our Infinite Fates by Laura Stephen, and unfortunately this was such a flop for me. I don't think I properly talked about the premise in the last update. So we have a girl called Branwen Blythe who lives in Wales in 2022, and her sister Gracie has cancer, and Branwen can be a donor. She can donate her bone marrow to save Gracie, but she has to do it by her 18th birthday because she knows that when she turns 18, her fated lover from her past lives is gonna turn up and kill her. So we have Branwen, whose name throughout the years, like her soul sort of transcends like and regenerates every 18 years. Her real name is Evelyn, and her sort of fated lover is Arden, who's always setting out to kill her, and she doesn't know the reason for that, but these two are like madly in love, and it's like a tragic love story, and we're following her sort of trying to escape from Arden. At this point she just wants to avoid Arden for as long as she can so that she can donate her bone marrow, save her sister Gracie, and then she just is like, I accept my fate after that. It's fine. I enjoyed it throughout. It's very melodramatic because it's for teenagers. I think the main thing I didn't feel that there was like a massive love story between them. I didn't feel the chemistry. I didn't feel the yearning. I was just told that they're massively in love with each other, and I'm kind of like, but why? Like I don't see it. It's not that they're young. I think a lot of people's criticism is that they're like teenagers, and it's just like, well, yeah, but like I met my husband when I was 18, so I don't think it's that. And also they're like obviously a lot more like mentally mature than their ages because they've experienced so much in their past lives. But yeah, I didn't see why they cared so much about each other, beyond being upset that one is going to have to murder the other one. I thought the ending was just like a big cop-out. I didn't like it. Thought this is not really a spoiler because this isn't what happens, but it just kind of gave like, and it was all a dream kind of vibes, and like it wasn't a dream, but that's just kind of what it felt like, the kind of ending that it kind of wrapped up on. I don't know. Yeah, it just ended up being like a 2-star in the end, and I was quite disappointed by it because I've loved Laura Stephen's previous books. There's a bit at the end that's set in Scotland, and it's just about this guy, and he's just like it's a really romanticized view of Edinburgh, which like I kind of don't like, because like Edinburgh's my closest city, and it's talking about like how this guy was like, I had these plans to set up a vintage boutique on Princes Street, and it's just like, where, babe? A vintage boutique where? On Princes Street? Like, okay, sure. But it was just like, there's things like that that aren't really a big deal, but I was just like, nah. Just really added to like my dislike of the ending. And yeah, maybe I'd have liked it more as like a teenager, I don't know, but it just wasn't, because it's basically a romance. It's a fantasy romance, sure, and there's like time travel elements and stuff, but it just, yeah, it didn't work for me as a romance, and so unfortunately the whole like book fell apart as a result of that. So that was really disappointing, but I will read like anything that Laura Stephen brings out in the future, because I still love the way she writes. I think she's a great author. It's just maybe the romance element wasn't quite for me this time. Her other books have had a bit of a romantic element to them, but not as much as this, and so maybe just that was what I wasn't enjoying. But yeah, just overall not for me at all. Back slightly later than planned, and I have finished The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I liked this. I thought it was good. I have some criticisms of it. I don't think overall it was like a good book, but I still really enjoyed my time with it. So this is following Lucia. She's a scullion who gets sort of whisked off into this tournament by a man called Santangel, who is acting as a servant for Don Victor, who is just trying to win favour with the king and sort of get back into a more powerful position. Lucia's she's had a hard life. She's an orphan who ended up working for a household that were sort of really down on their fortune and treated her quite cruelly. And her mistress Valentina is really motivated by the idea of like pushing Lucia. She can perform like, they're called like miracles. So like she can smash glasses and like put them back together again, and she performs for all these people, and Valentina really sees that as a way to sort of get back into societal standing and earn some more money and have nice dresses and like nice food and things. And Lucia takes part in a tournament where she's competing against 3 other people to become like an employee of the king, basically. And what I really liked was how slow this was for the most part. It is quite slow, and I liked that, but I did feel like the pacing was a little bit off. It would be quite slow building until you got to the tournament, and then the tournament went really quick. Like each round of the tournament, it was packed full of action and lots happened really quickly, and then it was over and was back to being slow. And I didn't enjoy the sort of tournament bits themselves, so they were like my least favourite part. I just thought we could have spent a bit more time with them. I thought the magic system as well was a bit, like, it was quite simple, but I would like to see the backstory. Like, we didn't really learn how Lucia sort of came to realise she had these powers, and like sort of the origins of them. That was a bit unclear to me, so I would have liked to see more of that. I'm gonna put this book down now. I really liked the setting in sort of 16th century Spain, and like the whole like Inquisition. So like Lucia's sort of trying to hide that she's Jewish or has Jewish roots, and doesn't want to get pulled in for that, or like pulled in for witchcraft. Like, people are really scared, and it's like definitely an atmosphere of terror, which I liked. I would have liked more of the historical element, because to me they were mentioning like the Inquisition, and that was the only real thing that gave away like when this was set. I think it could have been any period in history, or just like a fantasy world that was set in like not a particular time. I just didn't think that was done particularly well, and that was really disappointing for me, because I would have found that really interesting, and I would have liked to have learned more about that and had more of the political intrigue. I think you're then like gonna have a much bigger book in terms of like size and scope, but I think it would have been worth it. We only really have a bit of like King Philip like doesn't get on with Queen Elizabeth, because it's like Protestant versus Catholic, and like they're like seeking out heretics within society, and that was all you really got. Didn't get like particularly in-depth descriptions about like the way people are dressed, the way things looked, the way furniture was, and I would have liked to see more of that. I just felt like the world building was quite flat. I really enjoyed the characterization, so like Lucia, Santankel, and Valentina, her mistress. I think Valentina in particular was a really interesting character as well, and sort of like the character, like her character arc was definitely the most interesting within the book. Lucia starts off as like, she's the heroine of the book, and she starts off as this very meek servant, and then sort of, I'm not necessarily sure she finds her confidence, but we just like see that sort of being drawn from her. She's not like a really powerful like badass heroine like we normally get in these kind of books. It was like a real slow shift of her personality, and I think it reflected her upbringing really well. So she lost both of her parents at a young age and didn't have any family, and sort of like descended into poverty, and I think you could really tell that within her character it made sense for her to be the way that she was. She wasn't necessarily likeable, but I did find myself rooting for her, and I found her a very believable character. And Santankel was again interesting. I would have liked more of him and like his backstory, because I thought that bit was really interesting. I won't tell you what it is, but yeah, I would have liked to have seen more of him. I thought the characters were really well done. It's beautifully written as well. Like, I think Leigh Bardugo is a really good writer. I just wish we'd had more time to build the world, and like more time to like explain the magic system, and kind of like delve a little bit deeper into the political intrigue, instead of saying like the king's after somebody to perform his miracles. Like, just tell us a bit more why, like set the scene a little bit more, you know. It just felt like these characters had just been transplanted into a world that could have been anywhere, and the plot wasn't really doing much for me. I was definitely more invested in the characters throughout this. I did quite enjoy the romance in this. It's like a kind of like shadow daddy slow burn romance, and I was into it. It was a bit red flaggy, but you know, kind of hot. And it was definitely like a slow burn romance. It wasn't like insta love, and I could really see why these characters wanted to be together, and I could see what they saw in each other, and I really felt their love for each other. It's like a complete contrast to our Infinite Fades that I read previously, where it's just like being told like how passionately these two people loved each other and didn't really see it for myself. This one I got it. I could see, you know, why they were drawn to each other, and I liked that the kind of sex scenes were a bit more fade to black. I think Leigh Bardugo is really good at building like the kind of like passion and like longing that these two people have, but like doesn't quite give you everything, which to me is just like, that's how I like it. I don't want any graphic descriptions about what they do. It's not for me. So yeah, I really enjoyed that part as well. Overall, I really did enjoy it. I was a bit disappointed with it. Not necessarily disappointed because I wasn't expecting much from the reviews that I've read, but like it just could have been so much more. And I wish it had a bit more time. I think we could have done with like a longer book perhaps. I think my theory is that this could have been amazing, and Leigh Bardugo submitted it to the publisher and they were just like, yeah, it's got Leigh Bardugo's name on it, like let's just publish it, we don't really need to edit it, we don't need to make it better, it's gonna sell. And maybe that's a bit cynical, but I think that's what's happened here. I think it was a really cool idea and concept, and parts of it were really well formed. Like the characters, I don't think needed any more work, but the characterization came at the expense of like the plot, the world building, and the pace. And I would have enjoyed this so much more if it had a bit more care taken to it, aside from like the characters and just like rushing the plot along. So I can see why people don't like this. It did feel a bit YA to me. That doesn't particularly bother me. Like it did read quite young, even though it's definitely not for like young teenagers. I think maybe more like new adult. It wasn't really that dark. It didn't have like, there wasn't that much that could like mark it as an adult book necessarily. It was just, it had some like swearing in it that wouldn't be appropriate for like a younger teenager, so maybe people were a bit disappointed with that. Like I said, it didn't really bother me that much. Yeah, I would read more Leigh Bardugo. Perhaps if you've read Leigh Bardugo in the past, this seems quite different to her other stuff. I think I would read more things by Leigh Bardugo. Nothing else of hers like conceptually sort of stands out to me as something I would like to read, but I did really enjoy the writing and the characters. So if you have any suggestions for what I could read next, having quite liked this one, please let me know. I'm gonna leave it there because I feel like I'm rambling now. So thank you very much for watching. Let me know if you've read The Familiar and what you thought of it, if so, and I will see you again soon. Bye.